Welcome back to another video, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Graham Winship. In today's video, we're going to be discussing Jungle Scout's report on the state of the consumer. So recently, I published a video about the state of the Amazon seller. Today, we're going to be looking at a similar report that they did surveying customers and their shopping behaviors. This data is super important for analyzing customer trends, seeing what's popular, and guiding your decisions as an Amazon seller for knowing what to sell in the future. If you feel that there's a growing trend among a certain demographic, let's say, for example, young shoppers are searching more for a certain product on Amazon, you can maybe use that information to launch a product or tailor one of your current products towards that direction. So having as much info is always going to be a valuable resource for you as an Amazon seller or as someone who's looking to get into Amazon. And so you can't take this stuff lightly. I find this stuff extremely interesting, and these reports are very well done. So hopefully you're on the same page as me and we can go through this and take some valuable insights from the data they bring us. So this report is a super valuable insight into customers that purchase on Amazon. Let's go through it, and I'll help you guys identify how this data can help you improve your business and make more money on Amazon. So let's jump into the computer now, and we'll go through it slide by slide. Okay, guys, so here we are inside the report. I think it always pays off to look at some of the methodology behind the report before we get into it. So as you can see here, this was a survey done between February 8th and 9th, so a small date size, among 1,000 U.S. consumers, notably U.S. consumers, so keep in mind this does not include consumers from other countries, representing 48 states, all genders, different ages, different employment types. So the reason I want to show you this is because you do need to keep in mind that, this doesn't tailor towards a Canadian's preferences. Yes, they may be similar to an American's, but this does not tailor towards a Japanese consumer. So you need to keep those things in mind when interpreting this data. Demographic data, we can see here, they have a good split between male and female genders. That's good to see. You want an equal split. You might even want more female because females tend to shop more. But yeah, happy with that gender proportions with male, female. Happy to see here that there's a good range of ages in this study. So we're not just getting data from one age bracket. Then you can also see stats on household income. This is probably important to know. It's probably proportionate to the typical spread between incomes in the US. And so the majority are low income, but this does look like it's skewed a little bit more towards less than 25K. I mean, maybe the types of people that they were interviewing were not busy or they weren't working, so they had time to do this study. Just keep those small nuances in mind. Okay, as you can see here, 53% of the people that they interviewed were employed and 47% were unemployed, with 20% of the 47% being retired. So this does skew a little bit towards retired folks. I think you need to be mindful of where this data is coming from, and if you see something surprising in the results, just keep in mind that this is the demographic data that they pulled these results from. Okay, so let's get into it. Generational trends in consumer behavior, Q1 2023. So this study of 1,000 U.S. consumers explores spending on e-commerce trends with a special focus on generational differences among Gen Z, Millennial, and Gen X and Baby Boomer shoppers, as the buying power of each group continues to shift. Notable takeaways are that America's youngest adult shoppers are savvy and setting a new standard for e-commerce. 32% of Gen Z consumers shop online once a day. That's crazy. I shop online like once a month. This is even crazier. Among Gen Z, 43% start on TikTok. Okay, what do we take from this? Well, clearly, we need to put a bigger emphasis on social media. I mean, clearly, if that's where people are starting their searches, that's probably an indication to us as Amazon sellers that we need to put more focus on social media if you're not already. Interestingly, baby boomers are 78% more likely than Gen Z to buy items on sale, while Gen Z buys used products more than any other age group. Very interesting. Once again, I wouldn't necessarily take this as complete fact. I do have a little bit of concern about the people that they interviewed. Just as so many of them were retired, so maybe they're, on the lower income bracket, and so they're more likely to look for items on sale. I don't know. Keep that in mind, but we can still use this data to make meaningful decisions. Here is just a simple generational profile on the different age brackets that they interviewed. You can pause and look into this further, but pretty self-explanatory. It's just a pretty generic spread of typical household incomes. Okay, so chapter 1 is talking about trends. This is actually very important. A bunch of my products that I started back in 2018 were based on trending results. So this is something to keep in mind. If you think that something is going to be continuing to be a trending product or category over the next few years, you can set yourself up well by tailoring your products towards that category. Quarterly changes in overall spending. I would say the main takeaway here is a few more people say that their quarterly spending has decreased. That's the blue line, seems to be trending upwards slightly, and equally I would say it's a little bit trending up for increased, so not a whole lot to gather there. The only trend I really notice here is that you can see overall and online spending. Overall spending is decreasing more than online spending, so that is a win for shopping online. And then the other notable thing I notice here is a 3% increase in spending overall, but a 6% increase in spending online. So I think that's the biggest takeaway, is it looks like online shopping is still continuing to gain ground on traditional shopping. This just shows which categories people are spending more and less in. So if I look here, it looks like more people are spending on groceries, makes total sense due to inflation. And then in terms of categories where people are spending less, you got electronics, home and kitchen, and clothing seeing the biggest decreases. These likely tend to be discretionary spending where it's not so needed of products. I mean, if this recession is coming like some people are predicting, it would make sense that people will be spending less in these categories. So here's where people shop. I mean, in store, no surprise, Walmart's number 1 and Target's number 2. I think that makes up 90% of consumers shop at one of those two stores. So pretty par for the course. I think that's not unexpected. However, what I see that is unexpected for me at least is online shopping. 40% of people are shopping on Walmart. That is incredible. I did not expect that. I think that gives me information that I should be really focusing on Walmart. Yeah, that's the main takeaway here. I need to look into Walmart. That's very interesting. So nearly 70% of the consumers believe the US is already in a recession or will enter one this year. I think that's pretty common knowledge at this point. Interestingly, it looks like rising inflation has affected spending more and more. So most recently, 80% of people would say that, compared to 83% in Q4 of 2022. So maybe the worst is already over if this continues to decline. Obviously, early 2022, it wasn't seen as much of an issue, but inflation is definitely the flavor of the year in terms of what everyone seems to be talking about. Going to be interesting to see how Q2 performs, because if this continues to drop, then it's probably a positive sign for increased spending. You can pause this to get a better picture, but the overall insight here is rising inflation has impacted spending for millennial and Gen X consumers more than Gen Z and baby boomers. So these two middle generations are also more likely to be worried about their finances. It makes sense, older people don't have as much responsibilities, whereas people with kids, busy lifestyles, and in the current job environment tend to be more worried about their finances. That makes sense. I think young people are more likely to rely on their parents, and so they probably have less worries about their finances. Once again, like I said, the flavor of the year is that people are thinking we're already in a recession, or they are worried about going into one. I think, we need to see how this plays out. Of course, in my opinion, we're already in a recession. I mean, if you take inflation into account, spending and economic GDP is down. And so I think the worst of it might already be over, and we might be into smoother sailing. I do have a bit of worry about, the future of the economy. It seems as if the divide between the wealthy and the poor has broadened. And so I do fear that people will have less discretionary money to spend on products. But the reverse argument for that could be that, okay, well, those people are less likely to now go on vacation, so they'll treat themselves with smaller purchases from Amazon. So it all depends on your insight into where you think that change happens and what it affects. But it's something to keep in mind to base your hypothesis on. Spending and saving. Despite having the lowest household incomes amid a high inflation economic period, Gen Z consumers are the least likely generational group to cut back on experience-driven spending such as travel and in-person entertainment. Yeah, I guess young people are irresponsible. That could be the takeaway here. Interestingly, consumers are planning on cutting back in Q1 most on dining out, makes sense. I think as grocery prices have risen, so have restaurant costs. Even speaking from my own perspective, I don't eat out as much as I used to. You know, a $12 hamburger is now $18. Just doesn't seem worth it anymore. People also plan on reducing their fun/impulse purchases. I think it's easy to say that you will. I don't know if the actual behavior will reflect that, but it doesn't surprise me that people say they will cut back on these things. I tend to believe that won't actually happen. And this is funny. So, top money saving strategies. Buy items on sale. I think the top money saving strategy should be just stop spending on stuff. But I mean, hey, that's what you get when you interview the general public. I think this is a pretty good indication that people like to maintain their lifestyle. They're not very willing to just stop purchasing. And so I think it's a good sign that people will continue to purchase. They may purchase, you know, on the lower end of the spectrum for pricing. So maybe you could hypothesize that you should be pricing more aggressively, those types of things. Maybe you want to spend less on your ads and lower your prices to compensate for that. Who knows? But I think overall, the consumer's not going to slow down too much unless things get super bad, and I don't see them getting too bad. We just have too high of employment numbers currently. So here's just a graph of when consumers shop for a product online, where do they start their search? Now, this is scary data for Amazon sellers. So Q1 of 2022, it was 63% on Amazon. It is now 56%. A couple points on that. So firstly, I think Amazon has raised their fees so much that the value proposition for consumers has gone down, and that has probably contributed to some of this decline. However, I do think that a big part of that too is Amazon was probably well stocked during COVID, and so maybe they had some advantage here, and that actually raised their numbers here. But this is concerning. I think Amazon needs to do a much better job at lowering costs for their sellers, such as you and me, so that we don't have to keep raising our prices to be profitable. And the other concerning trend for Amazon I see here is Walmart gaining so much. So from 31% to 37%, that is clear that Walmart is rapidly gaining ground on Amazon. And it's another reminder that I need to look into Walmart, and probably you do too. That being said, Amazon is still king. Most people start their product searches on Amazon, even more so than Google, which is crazy. I mean, if people are thinking of, okay, I need a product, and their immediate response is, okay, let's go look on Amazon, that's a pretty good indicator that just Amazon is king. So obviously they need to maintain this lead. I really think they need to get their fees back down, or at least stop raising them. They need to create that amazing value prop that they've always had, which is delighting their customers with great prices and fast shipping. Well, if you keep raising your fees on Amazon sellers, we're going to keep raising our prices, and your consumers won't be as happy. So I definitely think Amazon has some room to improve, but this is something to watch over the coming years. If Walmart continues to increase and Amazon doesn't, Amazon's in trouble. So here's a very interesting online shopping frequency chart. I cannot believe that anybody shops once a day or more on Amazon. I guess maybe if you're buying like groceries every day. But like I said, I'm like a once a month consumer online. I mean, I just moved to Dubai, and so I was buying everything in this apartment, and I don't even think I shopped once a day. It was probably 3 times a week at most. And so, yeah, I can't believe there's people that spend this much, but I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. I mean, people are glued to their phones more than ever. They're seeing advertisements, and they're purchasing products online. It's not surprising, but from a business perspective, I have no problem. You know, keep buying all you want. This tends to be a trend, I'd say, in Gen Z. It seems that younger people are into purchasing pre-owned stuff, especially online. I mean, once again, I wouldn't have expected this. I personally don't purchase pre-owned things very often. Actually, this microphone is, because it was 25% off and it was barely used. So, hey, maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I don't expect the numbers to be that high. I mean, personally, I pretty much always purchase new. I'd just rather not deal with pre-owned issues. You can pause here, but I'm not going to go into it. Just as this is the different categories where people are purchasing pre-owned. I think us as Amazon sellers aren't very focused on pre-owned goods, so not a big concern. Now, this is massive. So social media spotlight, this is very important. This is where a lot of my focus will be over the next year or two, and that's social media. So I view social media as the next most important thing when it comes to business. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it'll just continue to increase. You know, 5 years ago, my parents thought I was crazy for even being on social media. Now they're glued to it. I know that's the story for a lot of people, is that older people are now addicted to social media. And so I just see, you know, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram continuing to dominate. Don't know if TikTok will be such a big player, as I think US regulators are looking to try to force them out. Building an online social media presence is massive, whether that's for your brand or for yourself. Truly believe that's the key for big wealth over the next 10 years. And so that's where I'm placing a bunch of my focus. I mean, hey, I'm making a YouTube video right now. That's a good slide to finish on. I think this is probably the most impactful slide for me to look at. And I truly believe that if you're left with one message from this, it's focus on social media. It is the future, as much as you might not like it, as much as you might not believe it's good for humans, which I don't. It's where the money is, and it's where the money will continue to flow. So that's all for this report. I hope you guys found that insightful. I love breaking down things like this because it really helps direct my focus on where I want the future of my business to go. And if you guys have any thoughts, let me know. Enjoy going through this stuff. So if you guys like this type of content, like I said, leave it in the comments below, and we'll end it there. So there you have it. There's a breakdown of the Amazon consumer. I find this stuff extremely interesting. Maybe I'm just a nerd. Maybe you guys agree with me. I hope you guys got some value from that. I think looking at what customer trends are really helps you as a business owner know which direction to go with your business. And smart business owners are looking at this data and making meaningful decisions based on it. With that said, if you're new here, I encourage you to subscribe. My goal is to make this channel the #1 resource for people like yourself, and I want to help you guys grow, make more money, achieve financial freedom. That's the goal with this channel. So, like I said, subscribe if you're new. I appreciate all of you for sticking through the video. Stay tuned for more Amazon and entrepreneurial content, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, guys.